Welcome back to another Fantasy and Frames edition of the 2023 Redraft Series, where I'll be covering one of my favorite buys, and that is no other than Courtland Sutton in Redraft. My name is Kyle. You can find me on Twitter at KZ1180. If you're joining me on YouTube and you're new to the channel, welcome. Also, if you could help us out, I'd greatly appreciate it. Just hit that subscribe button, click on the bell that pops up. You'll be notified of all of our great content that we put out here on Fantasy and Frames. All right, let's get to why I love me some Courtland Sutton in 2023 Redraft. And as always, I'll keep it real with you. I'll go over some reasons why you may be a little bit shy on taking him, but we'll get into that later. But first, let's briefly go over his situation with the Denver Broncos. He's in the middle of his 4-year, $60 million deal with $34.9 million in guarantee. Under new head coach Sean Payton, after Nathaniel Hackett was let go after one season, and we all know how Sean Payton feels about Nathaniel Hackett. But we should all be excited about this offense with Sean Payton running the show. Broncos drafted second-round pick wide receiver Marvin Mims Jr. out of Oklahoma. They added right tackle Mike McGlinchey, wide receiver Marquez Callaway, and brought in tight end Adam Trautman in free agency. Last year in 2022, Sutton had 64 catches, 830 yards, but only 2 touchdowns. He averaged 8.5 points in a half-point PPR, and he was just north of 10 points at 10.6 per game in a PPR setting. He finished last year in fantasy per game scoring as the wide receiver 47 in non-PPR, wide receiver 44 in half, and he was the wide receiver 43 in a full-point PPR. So, yeah, not a very good year with his first season with Russell Wilson. And in fact, he hasn't cracked the 1,000-yard mark in his season since that big breakout year he had in 2019, where he had just over 1,100 yards and 6 touchdowns. According to FantasyData.com, he hasn't even reached the top 40 at his position in points per game. He has to learn a new offensive scheme under head coach Sean Payton, which, yeah, that could be a good thing. But on the flip side, it could be a little bit of a learning curve for him as well. Sean Payton has brought in a lot of his former players to the Broncos, more notably on offense with Marquez Callaway and tight end Adam Trautman. It's a little worrisome because these guys know what to expect already. It could take a little bit more time for Sutton to fully grasp that offense. And to piggyback off that, there's potentially a lot of mouths to feed there in Denver. I mean, you have Jerry Jeudy. To his credit, he is the wide receiver 1. Javonte Williams looks to be recovering well from his torn ACL in week 4 of last season. And you have Greg Dulcich, who could steal some end zone looks away from Courtland Sutton. But it doesn't take away the fact what he did last year, leading the team in targets with 106. He was also tied wide receiver 7 in the league for end zone targets with a total of 13, which is only one shy of the greats in Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. All this according to PFF. FantasyData also shows him as the wide receiver 14 in air yards per game at 92.66, which in comparison to Jerry Jeudy, who had 78.66. Courtland Sutton was also on pace with Jeudy in total catches, yards, and touchdowns. Look, I'm not arguing that Jerry Jeudy had the better year last year, because he did. I'm just merely pointing out the fact that his numbers were right on par with Jeudy, but that ADP between them says otherwise. Which brings me to where I see Courtland Sutton this fantasy season. I have Courtland Sutton in my rankings at wide receiver 35 with the possibility of cracking the top 25 at the wide receiver position. Over at Fantasy Pros, they have Sutton at wide receiver 43.5 PPR, which I think is ridiculously too low. I mean, who they have going before him feels a little disrespectful. Rookie Quentin Johnston, Brandon Cooks, and Gabe Davis all being picked over Courtland Sutton? I don't know. I expect him to beat his half point per games from last season, who had 8.5, to rise into the double digits of 10-plus points a game. Considering the ADP difference of Jeudy being 49 overall at Fantasy Pros and Sutton at the 100 overall mark, I believe Sutton is the clear better buy and will crush this current ADP this coming season. I'd like to thank y'all for watching this video. If you're on YouTube, please, again, just hit that subscribe button. Give me the thumbs up. I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, let me know your thoughts on Courtland Sutton. You have something else to add? Feel free to drop your comment below. Reach me out on Twitter, or is it X? You know what it is. KZ1180. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, KZ is out.